It's been 15 years or more since I've had a director give me a shot list or even sit down and give me the specifics they want out of a scene. It's always the case that it's like, okay, take a shot at this. So I come in, I do the first pass, then I show that to the director, then they make, they give notes and we go back and forth. I got assigned a thing and I gotta figure shit out. If I haven't figured it out, I don't turn it in. I only turn in stuff I'm confident about, even if it makes people anxious.
What makes a good collaborator as a director then? Like, what are you looking for in a director that'll make you produce good storyboards, I guess, or make your job pleasurable?
Well, I mean, I think that the big thing is just about being able to communicate stuff in, and knowing what they want. I mean, the whole job of a director, as I'm sure you know, is to just answer questions and, and make decisions. So being able to have a clear idea. It's been 15 years or more since I've had a director give me a shot list or even sit down and give me the specifics they want out of a scene. What I do is come in, if there is a script, I read it, and like for a particular sequence, it's always the case that it's like, okay, take a shot at this. So I come in, I do the first pass on whatever the sequence is, and then I show that to the director. Then they make, they give notes, and we go back and forth and adjust things and change it and all that sort of stuff, right? But that's how it worked with Chris Nolan. That's how it's worked with everybody, right? And so like a lot of what my job is, and a lot of it is coming up with shit too, right? Like it's about inventing stuff for sequences and stuff, because a lot of the times there's not a clear plan or the script isn't finished or whatever. So the ability to just communicate stuff and make decisions and move forward are the things that I like. But I like to make decisions and move forward too, and so I don't, it's, there were directors that I worked with very early on and then, went back over the next couple of years and I would get frustrated with the lack of, there was certainly a director that I had worked with early on that I went back and worked with again a few years later. And I was just like, oh my God, this is the most straightforward scene in the world. Why am I sitting around here waiting for you to figure it out?
Right. Yeah.
Could I just do that? And then eventually he'd get around to kind of figuring it out. But I'd have to just sit there and go, But look, I've really enjoyed working with Jim Mangold on a few movies recently, on Logan and Ford versus Ferrari and Indiana Jones and the current Bob Dylan movie.
Nice.
He knows movies. Like he's if like my ideal version of working with a director is a director who can reference old movies because that's that's your language. It is the language of stuff. I mean, it's a shortcut to understanding stuff, and Jim knows movies, so that's it's fantastic. Being able to to talk about whatever about John Frankenheimer's The Train or Ozu's Tokyo Story or whatever, I think that it, having a breadth of knowledge of movies makes it at least easier to communicate this stuff.
I want to get into the nitty gritty about your process of storyboarding because I think it's going to inform our audience who want to do this for a living, especially on feature films.
Well, don't do it. Like my advice is don't try to be a storyboard artist, man. It's all falling apart. But
because of AI. Is that why?
Well, it is to an extent because of AI, but it's because of a lot of things currently and going on in movies. But AI is not irrelevant in it at all. But go ahead.
We'll touch on that later. But I'm just curious. So you get a script, you read the script. Are you often assigned a scene because you're working with a group of storyboard artists who each get a scene on their own? So I want to know, how much time do you have to actually produce that scene? And when you're reading it, are you thumbnailing on the script, or do you do thumbnails first before you jump into your sketches? And then tell us, do you work digitally Do you work traditionally? How do you handle revisions? All of that. I want to know all that.
Okay. You're going to have to remind me of some of these things.
Sure.
It used to be the case that I would frequently work on films where there were multiple storyboard artists. More and more, I've been the only storyboard artist. I mean, I like most of the time for the last, like 10 or more years, I've been the only storyboard artist. I was the only board artist on like Inception and and on Indiana Jones, like I was the only guy, right? Like, so,
it's a lot of work.
on a lot of things. So in all these movies, there were other guys who worked on Logan, but either way, I'm just going to, it's going to be like, well, what's the priority? What should we work on first? What's a complex thing to try to figure out, or what's, and a lot of the time that has to do with the schedule, but a lot of the time we're so far in advance that, that it's just a question of like exploring the thing and trying to find stuff. Usually on the Mangold movies at the beginning, I will look through the script and just do keyframe sort of, single frame illustrations of in black and white, but of just moments in the script, and we'll kind of develop ideas kind of through that, and just develop a kind of tone, a feel, right? And but I will, as far as how long I have, that's it's never as clear as all of that. Like, I feel like maybe it is on some other people on other movies or something, but often for me, it's, I got assigned a thing and I got to figure shit out. So if I haven't figured it out, I don't turn it in. Right. Like, even if people are going, where is this thing? I'll be like, it's not ready yet. Like I will, I only turn in stuff I'm confident about, right?
Oh, okay.
So,
that's good advice.
Even if it makes people anxious, if it gets people a little bit nervous, right?
Yeah, but exactly. Yeah.
Better, right? Because you can waste a lot of time turning in something that isn't there, and somebody else looks at it and goes, well, this isn't there. This isn't working. Maybe the whole thing isn't working. Well, it can just create more problems, right? So, that is, I don't know that I've talked about this a lot, but that is part of my strategy. Like, I don't, I will just work something out to the point where I think it's working. And Good. As far as, I don't thumbnail things on a script. Well, I mean, I would be writing it on a PDF these days. I just think this way, right? So like like when I read a script, I think about it in terms of blocking and how to shoot it. And then I let that marinate in my head, and I work digitally, because that's the only, I would draw my comics traditionally. I do storyboard digitally because there's no other way to do it. Like that's the pipeline. Like on Indiana Jones, I was on it from before there was a script all the way along. Very early on, the picture editors who just, had just won an Oscar for Ford Ferrari. Like they were on from the beginning of the movie, and I would do boards. I would work with the editor. I'd send them to the editors, to Mike and Drew, and they'd cut them together, and then we'd look at it and go, oh, well, maybe.
So they'd make animatics.
Yeah. Well, they cut it together in a, rudimentary animatic, basically.
Okay.
And, and then we'd look at it, and and I'd go, oh, I don't think this is working. Let me do another thing here, put other stuff in there. Like, the digital part of the process is important for that, so that I could just draw a thing, revise a thing, send it over. They put it in the cut. They, and just for every part of filmmaking now, that's, the accessibility of the digital stuff is important, and the ability to change it.
Sure.
But give me another part of that question.
No, I think you pretty much covered it, which is impressive. You remember? I'm curious, what tools do you use? And then my second part of the question is, I notice like your love of Zipatone. And you even use that in your storyboards. So do you have a
Jim Mangold doesn't like it. He doesn't like it, so I don't use them in his boards. But,
okay. That's funny. Like, what's the discussion there? Like,
hey,
I don't like this.
Jim. Get it I don't know. Like, it's just like, I don't know.
Too distracting.
Focused on a couple of things sometimes. But at some point he was like, I don't like it when you use
those little dots.
Whatever. So I just didn't use them anymore. Sometimes I do use them in the boards, but they're just digitals at the time. I just like textures, right? So like at least if I could give stuff texture, but I like drawing traditionally in comics because like I'm not, I can make real textures, and I'm not, I'm not like digitally recreating textures, but for boards, that's fine. I do like to do boards that feel evocative or have a mood to them, and that gets it. And as far as like what I use, it's incredibly rudimentary. I just draw in Photoshop and, use some, just.
You have a Cintiq?
Yeah. Okay. Like I draw on a big Cintiq, in Photoshop, with some special brushes that, for, kind of dry media looking brushes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing I always liked about your stuff is that it had a texture to it. But kind of going back to just when you did Heathen Town, because it's like a different style than I think what I originally saw in your storyboard work. And then your style seems to have evolved over time. Like I just read Kinski, and that seemed a little different than stuff you were doing on Planet of the Apes or Green Lantern.
Well, yeah, of course.
And those are very conscious decisions you've made.
I think that stories demand the style, right? Like, and they demand whatever they demand. And it's a little bit of an ethereal thing to figure out, but like it's, I usually at the beginning of a project kind of like, I will get started on drawing it, like drawing actual pages kind of early and then like often throw some of that out and just find the style of it.
Wow.
The good thing about being a storyboard artist is that I have no feelings anymore. So like, because everything you ever do gets thrown away, right? So like, so like early on, it's just like, I mean, you could spend months on some big sequence and it has nothing to do with your work. It's just like, well, we can't afford that anymore, or we're changing this location or whatever. And all that work gets thrown out. Like the storyboards completely drove any sense of ownership and whatever out of me in a certain way. And so that makes it easier for just not getting attached to things, right? So like I can, but this stuff is very important to me. I don't really mean what I'm saying, but like, but there is a little bit of that. And and I want the story to feel like it just needs to feel a particular way. And the art needs to feel a particular way, and that isn't always the same. And with the book Kinski, it was a simpler feel, and it just wanted to be that. It's certainly something like Invisible Republic or the Green Lantern book is more elaborate, and But I mean, I think all of it with a bit of grit to it, and not being perfect. I don't like slick, perfect things. But definitely the story demands what it demands. Also, I got to say, I try to go into stuff without thinking about influences from other people. Like, I don't, I try to just find whatever it is that I want to do. If getting bogged down in, it's not, obviously I've been influenced by other people. Everybody has. But dwelling on it is not I don't think a good thing creatively, like for me. And I think that, I think so much of the discourse around, particularly in the world of comics art and popular YouTube shows about comics, is like people who are, even if you're by artists, people who are bogged down in everything being influenced by the narrow sphere that they're in, right? Thinking that everything has to be influenced by the narrow sphere of comics or whatever. Exactly. And if I have influences, I want them to be from other things. and I try to take them in a vague way. I look at stuff. I love other people's stuff, and I study it. I try not to directly take inspiration from other people's stuff.
That's the best way, really. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not in front of you as you're drawing.
No. I mean, like, I think that could take you down a wrong road, but I also think it's good to just try to let go of some stuff like that, not be bound by your influence.
That's the one thing. It's like with editors, because they want to know who they're getting on the day. And was that ever an issue with you where people they knew who they were hiring you because you're a good storyteller, but were they ever concerned about what style you were going to do, or did they have you try things out?
No, I don't try anything out. I also don't do revisions, but I mean, I will do little stuff, obviously, but nobody really asked for them. I mean, like, but that's not because I'm a genius. It's comics are like, a factory, like, and you have to get things out the door. But like, I mean, I revise everything in boards. I mean, that's all I do in boards. But like, I have no idea. I don't really like, I haven't had conversations with editors about stuff like that. I also don't get offered that much stuff, right? I turn down lots of stuff that I get offered where they want me to draw something somebody else is writing. So,
but you get approached, I guess, is the bigger. You don't have to go looking for work.
I usually have not looked for stuff, but
that's good.
But like, but I mean, the Green Lantern thing came up just through a weird set of circumstances and a lot of these things have come up because somebody asked me to draw some book I have no interest in. And I'm like, I'm not interested in drawing that. I'm like, I only draw stuff that I write. I literally have only drawn stuff that I've written or co-written since 2011 or something like that. Right. Like,
why is that?
Why have I only drawn stuff that I also wrote? Because I'm not interested in drawing stuff that other people write. It just isn't interesting enough to me. Like it's like I want to tell a story that I'm interested in. And, it's unlikely that somebody else is going to tell that. And I have a lot of stories that I would like to tell. And like, I just don't, I mean, it just doesn't, I think that the whole thing is storytelling. I think that the writing and drawing them are the same thing. Like they're just telling the story, right? So particularly, I'm not interested in drawing somebody's full script, a writer's full script comic. Like, I mean, it's functionally illustration, not storytelling, and and I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in using all of the means of storytelling to get a story across, writing it, drawing it, all of it.
Shane and I really appreciate you guys tuning into our YouTube channel today. If you enjoyed this short conversation and would like to see the entire interview, then please head on over to our Substack, where you'll not only find all of our full-length interviews, but a ton of super interesting posts that we've created just for you guys. Link is in the description box below. So until next time, thanks for watching.